Didn't work.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Good
morning.
Half your face, Mom.
Huh?
We have
Oh,
half
I don't
of
know
your
how
face.
to make it all my face. Hey guys, good morning. Good conversation going on in the chat about writing details. So I'm excited to answer that after our sprint. We're going to do some Q&A and we can talk about that. Yes, it's good to see you too. Clementine. Hey, Anne. Good morning. Hi, Terry. Hi, Leilani.
What's everybody working on this morning?
Leave it in the chat. I feel like there's a delay in the chat, so we ask a question. Hi, Pat. Welcome. So, morning, Dana. Dana? I never know if that's Dana or Dana. Morning, Teresa. Leilani is editing her call to action.
Nice.
But remember for this, her short story is done. Okay. Because for this 10 minutes, you're supposed to work on your main project, your work in progress. It's only 10 minutes.
So I have, oh no, I think, did you freeze? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. You were very still for a second. I wasn't sure. We have lots and lots of wind here today, so I'm hoping we're not going to have an issue.
Julie's working on a Christmas novel. How fun. Yay, Leilani's going to work on her work in progress instead. I feel like my job here is done. Nancy, you're welcome for the invitation to creativity. I think that I'm going to have to file that away. Tracy has paused Superstore and is watching. We're going to work on her novella. 84 in Richmond today, Julie says. I think we're at 60 today in Warren, PA.
It's felt nice.
Hi, Rick. What?
I said it's felt nice too, but today it's like kind of gray.
Totally agree. Morning, Mary Jo. Mary Jo's going to work on plotting her novel. Is that your work in progress, your novel, and you're in the plotting stage? Max is super ready.
I have a question before we get started.
Okay.
So I am feeling like I need to revisit my plot. Can I spend some time working on my plot board for 10 minutes, or does it need to be writing brand new words?
I mean, you can do, I don't like to be like a, I don't know, slave driver. I don't know what the word is that I want to use, but in general, I would just write for 10 minutes, but I would probably do whatever plotting I was going to do before that. So,
okay.
Or after. So
so it's like a different 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's just 10 minutes and it should be forward progress. I think it should be forward progress.
Okay.
But if you're in the plotting stages, and also that sounds suspiciously like editing, and I really bossy boots. That's what I'm gonna say from now on. I don't want to be a bossy boots, but I think that you should be wary of editing while you're actually writing. So if there's something that you need to figure out before you can move forward, and you literally cannot write 10 minutes of anything, I mean, what I would do is choose any scene that I know is going to be in my story, and write that for 10 minutes. And then you have the whole rest of the day. So spend some time working on your plot if you want.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good point.
Tracy says she's a plotter. She can only plot so far, and then I just write. She just writes. I would say me too. We do 5 key plot points, which I'm totally happy to talk about in the Q&A after, but it's 10:05 right now. That means it's time to start our
let me get the screen share on. All right, ready?
Yes, go. Well, I'm not able to mute myself because it's not working.
I can mute you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. I got to page 59 and through chapter 4 of my edits. So, yay. How about you?
I am looking. Hold on. Oh, I got 243.
Nice. How'd you guys do? Leave it in the chat. Oh, Gigi asked if we could have the same link every sprint. I don't think so, but you can always just go to YouTube and find it. And if you subscribe and then use the alert, YouTube will let you know that when we are live. And also, if you join us on Facebook, Ninja Writers on Facebook. Let's see, though. Let's see. Tracy Krimmer got 480 and finished a chapter. Good job. Clementine got 320. Julie Ranson got 231. Pat got 284. Shelly Stewart. Hi, Shelly. She got 235. Oops. Dana got 430. Gigi got through 6 prompts for her workbook. Gigi must be writing a workbook. That's pretty cool. Raven got 216. Leilani got 521.
Wow.
Jackie got 230. Leilani has like fingers on fire or something.
It does.
And she figured something out. Jackie did. So that's super cool. Terry got 375 really, really good words. Awesome. Nice. Ashley got 396. And that's after waiting for her document to load because her internet is lagging. So good job. Max got 215. Teresa got 249. Alyssa revised 4 paragraphs. I'm in revisions as well. And Chisholm got 187. Good job. Mary Jo got 198. Nice. Good job, everyone. So I wanted to stay a little later today to answer questions. I'm going to start with this one from Spike. If you guys have any writing questions, leave them in the chat. And I'm going to discuss them. So Spike says, I'm into the adventure part of the story. Some of these stories and details are fun, but they're not crucial to the whole plot and final outcome. So yay or nay. So I actually have a thought on this. Terry answered it and said, you might, to just go ahead and write it and worry about editing later. That is my ultimate answer. Like, just write your story and don't worry right now about what scenes are necessary. However, Spike, when you get to the part where you're editing, or you're trying to decide, you're plotting ahead or whatever, you can ask yourself a question. Does this scene do 2 things? Does it move my story forward? Everything you write should move your story forward. And does it do one other thing? Generally, those one other thing is going to be either character development, setting development, plot development, or maybe adding some texture to your story. If the answer is no, then it probably needs to go. And if you write it, it could become like a darling that you love. And even if it's beautifully written, if it doesn't do at least 2 things, it probably doesn't belong in your story. And that's like a scene, a detail, a chapter, whatever it is. The real question is, what would happen if I lifted this out of my story, right? What would happen? Would I have to write something else to replace it because it's got information in it that's vital to the rest of to make everything else make sense? Would I have to find some other way to do this character development or setting or plot development or add this texture? If the answer is yes, then that scene probably, or detail probably matters and you should leave it in. If it's no, like nothing would happen, then you should probably consider either not writing it or removing it when you're in edits. I hope that's helpful. I don't know if we've had any other questions. This Q&A part might not work.
There's one about, is there a proper way to format a text message in the story? in your story, or
where is that one?
it's towards the bottom or towards the end.
Okay. Can you put it? Oh, can you put it at, like, click on
Yeah.
it? So yeah. So this is Ballet Diva Girl. What a great name. Is there a proper way to format a text message in a story? I don't know if there's a proper way. I can tell you I would probably use italics, and or if it's like a back and forth, like maybe a dash, like an M dash, N dash. I never know which one it is, but like a dash. So that's what I would do. I feel like text messaging is such a new thing that for traditional publishing, there isn't like a hard and fast rule yet. One thing I will say though is don't use quotes. Quotation marks means one thing. It indicates spoken language, like spoken words, and so don't use quotation marks for like inner dialogue, text messages, anything except for people actually speaking out loud. Um, but you could use, I would say italics or a different font, something to set it apart. And once you do it once, like in the first time that you do it, if you're going to have a story that has several text messages, the first time you're going to want to make sure that the reader knows, like, hey, this is a text conversation. And then afterwards, I think if you format it the same way all the time, the reader will just realize that means that it's text. Okay. Saying more about the 5-point plotting. So these are 5 key plot points, and actually learned it from Script Lab, which is a great website. It's actually for script writing, which I don't do, but it has the 5 key plot points were like life-changing for me, and they didn't make them up. That's just where I learned about them. But they are the inciting incident, or sometimes it's called the call to action. The lock-in, which is the transition into Act 2 of your story. The midpoint climax, which we can talk about if anybody's interested in the midpoint mirror. So the midpoint scene is going to mirror the tone of the end of your story. So if you're not writing a true tragedy, which means only that the main character is either dead or would be better off dead at the end, not a sad story, like a hopeless ending story, then that midpoint climax is going to be a big win for your main character. And if you are writing a tragedy, then it's going to be inverse, and it will be like a tragic thing happening in the middle. The main climax happens at the end of Act 2, and it is the biggest moment in your story. In a non-tragic story, it's a dark night of the soul. It's a like culmination of a bunch of bad stuff. All the declining action like ends up in this pit of the dark night of the soul main climatic scene. And unless you're writing a tragedy, in which case it's inverse again, so it's going to be a big high, a big win right there. Think about it like a roller coaster. So in a non-tragic story, it's going to be up, down, up again, and then in a tragic story, it's going to be down, up, and down again. And then the last of the 5 key plot points is a third act twist, which happens at the beginning of Act 3 usually, and it's how your main character gets out of the dark night of the soul, or what makes what makes the main character fall into the tragedy of a tragic story. So I hope that made sense. There's so much. Maybe Adrian can find a blog post that I've written about 5 key. I've written so much about the 5 key. Oh, you know what? Link to the how to test and develop your story idea. This is a free class that we have just on Teachable, but it's free, and it's all about the 5 key plot points. If you just plot those 5 key plot points, it's like a roadmap to your story. All you have to do then is figure out like what happens before the inciting incident, which is the first really big thing, like really not big thing, but weird, like bizarre thing that happens to your main character. The first thing that's really outside the norm of their ordinary world. And then what happens between the inciting incident and the lock-in when they make a decision to move into the world of the story, and so on. The inciting incident, by the way, is often a question. Often it's an actual spoken question. Someone actually asks a question. Do you want to come to Hogwarts? Do you want to go find the wizard? You know, it's actually often a question from another character, an important mentor or side character. And the lock-in is the answer. So the lock-in is going to be, yep, I do want to go find the wizard. So let's talk about that's the Wizard of Oz, of course. And the inciting incident is, for me, is when she, like this fairy shows up and is like, hey, you're in Oz, here's what's going on. Because up until that point, she might be able to say, I think I hit my head and I'm hallucinating or something. But like it gets more real when Glinda, the good witch, shows up and is like, hey, welcome to Oz, And then, Dorothy's like, well, I'd like to go home. And Glinda says, you can go ask the wizard. Do you want to go ask the wizard? And she, of course, she says yes pretty quick. But for me, the lock-in doesn't really happen until she helps the Scarecrow. Because now it's not just about her. If she doesn't continue on, if she decides, I am hallucinating, I'm just gonna curl up under this tree, cry for a while or something, or go back to my house and hide under my bed or whatever. If she does any of that, she's gonna be letting her new friend down. And so once she has agreed to bring the Scarecrow with her, then she's locking into this path for the story. So that's my take on the inciting incident and the lock-in. The lock-in isn't necessarily like when they physically say yes for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It's not when he tells Hagrid, yes, I do want to go to Hogwarts, and then they go through Diagon Alley and all of that. It's actually when he makes a decision, when he's got his sorting hat on, and he has a choice between Slytherin or Gryffindor, and he chooses Gryffindor, and then the hat gives him his choice. That's the lock-in. So it's like the real transition into like they're really locking in. They've done something that will make turning back more difficult. They're involving other people, or they're making a decision that would be harder to unwind and just go back to their ordinary world. Okay. Alyssa says, I saw on your website that you're going to be starting a focus on nonfiction. I write personal essay and short narrative nonfiction. I am submitting to journals, but I'm thinking I may eventually gather some together for a memoir. Is this going to be part of the focus on nonfiction? Mm-hmm. Yes. And Adrian actually runs the creative nonfiction part of Ninja Writers. So absolutely. In the Ninja Writers Club, which Adrian can leave a link to, you can join for $5. We have a co-working call. That's on Wednesday nights, I think, right?
It's Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern.
At 5 p.m. Eastern. And in a co-working call in Ninja Writers Club, what you do is you can come and you can read some of your work, and you'll get peer feedback and also feedback from the mentor. In this case, it would be Adrian. And we also have I don't remember niche to pitch it's called, which is a
no, that's not it. It's we have the freelance co-working call.
Freelance co-working call, where you could come, like if you were going to submit to journals and you wanted to read your query letter out loud and get feedback, you could do that. Meg, who's might be here, I think I saw Meg come through. Meg runs the freelancing call, and she has so many resources. She knows all of the journals and all of the places where you can submit, so she can help you choose who and where to submit to. And that would, but also keep an eye out. We have the Ninja Writers Academy, which is it has a limit, only 100 students ever, because I do one-on-one coaching calls with everybody in the academy every quarter. So, but we do have a memoir workshop in there, and that's where you would have a small group and you would read longer pieces you're guaranteed to be able to read every other week. And then you would get feedback on big chunks of your story at a time, really deep, good feedback. So
right now
pay attention to that.
Yeah,
It's
right
not
now
open now, but
it's full too. That group
it's
is
full.
we keep the academy, the draw to it is that we keep the groups
together.
Small. They're 8 people to a group, and so right now it's full, but just
well, we open it up for enrollment in November, so keep an eye out for that. It's a little while, but you might enjoy that. But in the meantime, there's tons of stuff in the guild that you can join. In the club that you can join to get help with nonfiction.
The creative nonfiction co-working call on Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. is open to the club, and it is a really, really great group. It's still pretty on the small side. It's not too large, so it's been easy for people to hop in and share their work and get feedback and not feel like they're sharing to like a whole audience of people.
And that means there's time for everyone to read. We really try, if a group gets larger, then another Ninja Writer team member comes in so that we can do breakout rooms so everyone gets a chance to read every time they show up for that.
And it's a pretty good, like, consistent group where we've had a good, this people return every week. So it's a good group, and
it's a lot of fun for people to be in a group where people know your story. So
and it's specific to memoir,
nonfiction, and a lot of memoirs are in that group. Yeah.
So not blogging.
Yeah. Mary Jo Campbell says, I really struggle with the inciting incident, how big it needs to be, and how early in the story it needs to appear. I've been finding lots of help in James Scott Bell's book, Right from the Middle. I haven't read that book, so I don't know what James Scott Bell says about the inciting incident. To me, the inciting incident is something that happens that's outside. It's the first thing that happens that's really outside of the ordinary world for your character. And usually it's somewhere between 10 and 15% of the way into your story. I get asked a lot, like, can my first scene be my inciting incident? And of course it can, because I don't want to be bossy boots. So it can be, maybe. But the problem with that often is that by the time we get to the inciting incident, you want the reader to really care about the main character so that when the inciting incident happens, they care about it, right? And if we haven't been introduced to your character and know what their ordinary world is, the inciting incident often has less impact because we don't know that it's not their ordinary world. So usually you're going to want it to be at least, a little ways in so that you have time to introduce your character and get the reader to care about them. It doesn't have to, depending on what kind of story you're writing, Mary Jo, it doesn't have to be like big and splashy. In some novels, it's very predictable. So like in a romance, it's almost always going to be a connection or reconnection between the two main characters, or so it's just almost always going to be that. If you're writing a contemporary story, it may not be hugely splashy, but it might be. You never know. It's often, like I said, a question, which is not like in Harry Potter. I use Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone often because a lot of people know that story. I know there's like a bunch of J.K. Rowling controversy right now, which really sucks. Like, I don't know, but I like to use that story because it's one that's pretty well known. But in that particular story, the inciting incident is when Hagrid shows up on the little island and just finally gives Harry his invitation. And it's a relatively quiet. I mean, it's not like a huge big scene. It's just someone knocking on the door and then coming in, or just showing up. I can't remember, but and giving this kid an envelope and just telling him who he is. And so the one reason I like to talk about Harry Potter in the Sorcerer's Stone for the inciting incident is because it's really easy to use it to make this point, which is that the inciting incident is not going to be something that is normal, not only for your main character, but for someone in your main character's position. So it's not when the owls start showing up with all of the mail, because of a couple of things. The muggles know about magic, right? Harry Potter's aunt and uncle know that who his parents are, and that they went to Hogwarts, and that there are owls that bring mail to magical people. We know that because they hate magic and they're afraid of it. So if they hate something and they're afraid of it, then they know it's happening. So it's like part of the ordinary world for letters to arrive by owl. That's not it. And it's not, it's not anything up until the first, for Harry Potter, the first really unusual thing that happens is, it's not even that he got mail in the first place, because even though he doesn't normally get mail, people in his position, so people living in this place where he lives, in this time where he lives, get mail. So it's not that. It's when he finds out that his parents were wizards, and that he has an opportunity to leave the cupboard under the stairs and go do something else. Now that's unusual for him and for someone in his position. So I write middle grade books, and when I talk to other people, there'll be about their stories, and they'll say, well, my inciting incident is my character's parents are getting divorced. That's not almost never going to be the inciting incident, because if you're writing a contemporary story, people's parents get divorced when they're 10 or 12 or whatever. It happens all the time. So even though it's the first time it's happening to this character, it's something that is normal in their world, for people like them. So that's almost never going to be the inciting incident. And it's really common, I have found, for people to mistake the lock-in, like what they think is the lock-in is actually the inciting incident. So if you think about what is your lock-in, ask yourself, is that really the lock-in, or is it the inciting incident? Because I would say at least half to 75% of the time when I talk through 5 key plot points with someone, they have mistaken the lock-in is actually the inciting incident, because people think it has to happen real quick, and it doesn't. And so and then the lock-in is actually a full 25% of the way through your story, generally around. And just so that you guys know, on Sundays at 3 p.m., we have what we call NWAL, which is the Ninja Ride Along, and it's our fiction class, and I teach that. And there's always a ton of time for people to ask questions. And I don't think there's much I love more in this world than talking about 5 key plot points with people about their stories. I leave my Sunday afternoon class like riding a high, because I got to spend so much time talking about people's stories. So if you join the club, come on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I will be more than happy to talk out your key plot points with you. It is literally one of my favorite things in the world to do. Shelley asks, can an epilogue for a story that is not a tragedy be tragic? I want it to lead into the next story. I'm gonna go with no. I think if the story ends tragically, like with so tragic only means one thing: hopeless, right? So either the main character is going to be dead, or the life that they had is dead, and the reader leaves with no sense that things can get better. Now, of course, things can get better, because if the character's alive, things can get better. It's like a story that ends at, I always think of a tragedy as a story that ends at the dark night of the soul, right? So like if you kept going, eventually you'd get back around to like, how are they going to, or if you started with the tragedy, you would be able to tell a story that was hopeful. But where this story ends, there's everybody's dead, or the main character is either dead or would be better off dead, and there is no hope there, right? And so if you have a non-tragic story and then you end it tragically, I feel like that would be a really jarring experience for your reader. But I also want you to make sure, Shelley, that you're actually writing a tragedy. If you wanted to come on Sunday, I don't know if you actually write or work on Sunday. But if you wanted to come on Sunday, I'd be happy to talk out your particular story with you. You could also go, we have a fiction co-working call on Tuesday nights with Junita, and I'm sure she would be happy to talk it out with you too. But my gut feeling here is to say no, because your a non-tragic story ends with hope, and for that to take that away at the very end would be upsetting, I think, to readers. It makes me think of the movie Pay It Forward, which does not have a tragic it doesn't feel like it should be a tragedy, and then all of a sudden, like the last 5 minutes of the movie, almost like an epilogue, the kid gets stabbed to death and dies, and you're like, what's happening? Sorry if I just spoiled that. That's a very old movie though. So
do you feel like, I have a question about that though, because I know that you have a bias for really, really sad endings. Like you don't, and so like, does
I
that
have a bias against them? I don't like them.
Yeah,
but
you don't
a sad story is often, in fact, usually not tragic.
Okay.
So if the story, so let's I don't do sad stuff very well, but I did read A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and it's so sad that Adrian's little sister, when found me and I was finished reading it and thought that I was having a nervous breakdown because I was crying so hard. And but it's still not tragic, because at the end there's hope for the kid that's the main character, right? Like there's no feeling like he would be better off dead. So it's not tragic, even though it's heartbreakingly sad. Fault in Our Stars is the same. Marley and Me is the same. Like there's no feeling like Marley's owner should be dead, right? Or that Marley is better, there's no feeling like there's no hope here for these people. Tragedy is a very specific thing, and the only reason that really matters is for the pace of your story, right? So is that midpoint going to be a high or a low, and are you going to have to build a high to drop your reader off of into the tragedy toward the end, about 3/4 of the way through? That's really the only reason to know that. Darlene says, I write nonfiction. Do you know of any resources that clearly translate the plot points for published memoirs? Actually, so Adrian does, but I also want to say memoir almost always is told just like a novel and is going to have the exact same plot point.
Yes, I left some comments in the chat for you, Darlene, but my favorite creative nonfiction craft book that changes the game, because it's so easy to read and understand, and you're gonna leave that book with 1,000,001 ideas already written out, is Tell It Slant by Brenda Miller. It definitely, I left the link in the chat for that book. Definitely go check it out, because it talks about how to mine for ideas, and then also takes you through the whole process of writing creative nonfiction, through how exactly the different styles to write it in, how to edit it, how to publish it, the whole process. It holds your hand through it. It's really great. But also in that, I teach lead a creative nonfiction workshop on Wednesday nights, and the most common piece of advice that I give for writers in there is to go and take the How to Test and Develop Your Story Idea course through Ninja Writers, because those 5 key plot points, even though they're geared towards fiction writers, like memoir, it's real life for you, but to the reader, it's fiction, right? It needs to
anything with a narrative. So if you're telling a story, whether it's a memoir or a novel, it's going to have the same.
It still needs to have developed characters and settings and situations and all of that. It still needs to have all of those elements. So fiction resources are very, very helpful for creative nonfiction writers in particular.
Mm-hmm. But I would say go look at Script Lab as well, because if you can, they have hundreds and hundreds of movies with the 5 key plot points laid out. And many movies are based on memoir. So if you can find a movie there that's based on a memoir, you'll get the actual 5 key plot points.
And I'm putting the link to that book again in the chat. Somebody was just asking for it one more time. But it's Tell It Slant by Brenda Miller, and I'm putting the link in the chat.
Mary Jo said I explained the inciting incident well. Yay. I'm glad that was helpful. Thank you for telling me. Sometimes I feel like I'm being a little rambly, especially when you guys can't actually talk back. I'm used to teaching on Zoom where it's more of a conversation. Rick says he cheated. It's not cheating to keep writing. You're supposed to keep writing if you're feeling it. So good job, Rick. Thoughts on using or not using a pen name? I use pen name. I write under my maiden name. So Grimes is my maiden name. My married name is kind of a German mouthful when I already have an unusual first name. And also I just spent my whole life imagining books with Shanta Grimes on the cover. So it was a no-brainer for me to use my maiden name as a pen name. But also I'm getting ready in the next month or so to start indie publishing romance books, and I'm going to use a pen name for that that I'm not actually sharing very widely right now because I don't want to mess up my also bots. But the reason I'm using a pen name for that is because I write children's books, and I'm not ashamed of writing romance. I love romance. It's my first love. I started out wanting to be a romance writer. So I'm super excited to be able to do that, to shift into that for my indie publishing. But when I ask myself, like, will people who read The Astonishing Maybe or Center of Gravity, will their next book be my romance book? And the answer is probably not, because maybe the adults who read my books, which some might, I mean, at least parents or people who buy my book are adults, and they might like my romance books, but there's not enough of a crossover for me to want to write with the same name. So I'm using a pen name, and I don't know if you have like an elaboration on the question. I just think there's nothing wrong with using a pen name. You can, or you don't have to. And sometimes a pen name will be something that's very similar to your name. Like Shanta Grimes doesn't actually feel much like a pen name. It's been my name for almost 50 years. So it doesn't, it just feels like me. And then sometimes like my romance pen name is not my name at all. So it will feel more like a pen name, like not quite me. But I think there are many reasons to have a pen name. I actually am writing romance novels in 2 different romance genres, and I'm going to have 2 different pen names because I'm only publishing them on Kindle, on Amazon, and the algorithm there is so finicky that I want to have the best chance of capturing getting my book in front of the right audience. So I'm writing a reverse harem and paranormal romance. And so those are, even though I think there will be some crossover, and in my email list for those, my audience for those 2 pen names, I'm not going to be super picky about not letting them know about each other because I think there will be a big crossover there. But if I shared my pen name with, say, my Ninja Writers email list, I know exactly what would happen because it's what happened with my middle grade books. Amazon will tell everyone who buys my book, like, you might also like these books about like Tell It Slant or other books about writing, because the one thing that all of us have in common is writing. So for my pen names for my romance, I want most of my readers to be romance readers. So there's all different reasons to use a pen name, and I don't see anything wrong with it at all. Sometimes you just want to be someone else, I don't know. Let's see if there's any other questions. I don't see any more. Oh, there. She was wondering why people. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
Shelley
don't actually
know said that she signed up for NWalk.
Yay. Yes, I'm very excited about NWalk. Which is the ninja it's the Ninja Writers Accountability Kickoff. It's like a party for I don't know. Spirit Week. It's Ninja Writers
NaNoWriMo Club.
It's for NaNoWriMo, like leading up to NaNoWriMo. It starts on Saturday, and we're going to have tons of giveaways, including Adrienne is a artist, and she is doing 2 branding packages for people, and as prizes. And we have copy editors on the Ninja Writers team, and we're going to be giving away 2 like novel length copy edits, which is, I don't know, I'm very excited about that. I feel like that's something that people will really benefit from. And then I'm giving away a coaching package with me worth $1,500 that I also am very excited about, because I always love talking to people about their story. So make sure you join. Adrienne put the link in there. Maybe, it's the last comment there. Yep. We're going to be giving away prizes every day, all week long, or from Saturday to Thursday. And then we're going to have on Thursday, which is the 1st of April, we're going to be having a write-in right after the call, so we can kick off NaNoWriMo, Club Nano. Wendy
Coop asked, is the club really for fiction writers?
No, it's about half and half. So fiction, we have a lot, we have some stuff for fiction writers, and then we also have a lot of stuff for creative nonfiction writers and memoirists, and also a bunch for blogging and freelancing. And I teach a class on Sundays at noon called the Working Writer Program, and it's all about the business of being a writer, whatever kind of writer that you are, and creating. Actually, I have a book coming out at the end of the month I'm aiming for the 31st, called Creating Income Streams. So we talk a lot about income streams and how to build them to be a working writer. But there's also a ton in there for fiction if you are a fiction writer. But I would say it's pretty evenly split between fiction, business of being a writer, and different forms of nonfiction. We also, one of the coolest things that we have is Meg. I don't even know if she's still here, but Meg runs a tech call. So it's just a place you can go if you have questions. Like I spent almost this entire week struggling with, how do I get my my window, like for this call, to go over to the side so I can work on Word. And that is something that I could have gone to the tech call, and I should have, and I didn't. And Meg would have helped me figure out, right? And it's basic tech call. So if you're struggling with like how to make a publication on Medium, or how to format your novel or whatever, how to use Google Docs, how to get your email, go there for free. It's included in the club. And Meg is an awesome patient teacher, and there's just no shame for any question, no matter how small or how silly it might feel to you. I know sometimes I feel silly asking questions that I think people think I should know the answer to. And it's just a super supportive group.
She's good with basic stuff, but also the more technical stuff, like how to sign, get your email list set up, how to set up a domain, how to do that more technical stuff.
In that call, she often just holds people's hands through that.
Yeah, but she's really good at that.
Back to Wendy's question, the club is not really for, I hate to say it's not for fiction writers, because it is, but it's for fiction, creative nonfiction, memoir, freelancing,
for all writers,
and just the business of being a writer. We have a team of 7 people, so we each have different, like Junita and I focus on fiction, Adrienne focuses on creative nonfiction, Meg focuses on freelancing, and I teach the working writer class.
You do get a lot of fiction resources though, because it was started based on a novel idea. And so you get the whole A Novel Idea course in there, which walks you through the entire process.
Every single element of writing a novel.
It's amazing, yeah.
And you get access to the whole class when you join. So for $5, which I started out selling that class, was the whole business of Ninja Writers for $500. So
there's just a ton of stuff for every kind of writer. We've done it's been really important to us with the pandemic that we cover.
We shifted gears this year.
Yeah.
We always had some stuff for nonfiction and business, but we shifted gears towards trying to help people earn a living as a writer. I'm not seeing these questions though. Is there more in the chat?
That was, let me look. That was one.
Oh, I see Wendy's now. Does anyone have any other questions? I think that's it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for being here and asking questions and writing with us. And we are going to be live tomorrow for our 10-minute writing sprint at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So it's later in the day, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. The link already live?
It is. I also wanted to talk about like where you can find the link, because we are not going to be emailing it out every day. So, but what you'll be able to do is I'm going to post it right now in the chat so you can save it. And then also you can, we're going to post it in the recording from this call on YouTube in the description. So you'll have it there. But if you just log into YouTube and go to our channel, Ninja Writers channel, you'll see, it'll have like, it looks like a YouTube video, but it says streaming in 10 hours or something like that. And if you just click on that when it's time, it'll take you to our live call.
Our plan was to do this for this week. So we're tomorrow at 1:30, Sunday at 10, but I think it was super successful. I think we're going to keep doing it. So what we will do is on Sunday, if you have not joined our email, go to ninjawriters.org, join the email list, because I will on Sunday email out the schedule for the upcoming week. This is my actual writing time and Adrian's actual writing time. So the schedule may not be at the same time every day because we have to work it around when we both are not teaching. And so like we're inviting you to our actual writing time. So that's why we'll send a schedule out on Sunday. So if you go join our email list, you will get that schedule on Sunday. And we'll also post it to Teachable for anyone who is in the club. It'll be on the calendar starting in April. Okay, everyone have a fantastic day. Thank you for being here. This was so much fun. Bye.
Bye.